I've been writing some poems about my parents, and I'm starting to write them in pairs. So the first of these two poems tonight happened in 1944. The actual thing that happened did happen. It's not made up. I don't know how my parents reacted to it, but this is my take on it. This is a haiku, so a prose poem with a haiku at the end. And the last line is "The Moon is Shining," which is a song that was popular in 1944, one of Rudy Vallee's. Captivated, May 3rd, 1944. The best birthday ever for her, 22 years old, and her 15-month-old has slept through the night, her croup quiet for the first time in months. They'd taken her to the park that afternoon. Jerry, still in such a good mood because Les Canadiens had brought the Stanley Cup home for the 5th time a month before. This warm afternoon, with the baby toddling through a fine crop of dandelions, she's been able to listen again, patiently, to how no one can beat big number 9, the Rocket, to how brilliantly Elmer Luck passed the puck to Toe Blake for the winning goal in overtime, to laugh when he says he forgives Blake for not being French. Tonight, their heads close together by the radio, they listen to Katharine Hepburn, broadcast live from His Majesty's Theatre, right here in Montreal, on Guy Street, the real Katharine Hepburn, all the way from Hollywood for the 4th Canadian Victory Star Show. Jerry, surprisingly, wants to hear Katharine Hepburn too, as she speaks, first in English and then in French. He is captivated, despite himself, by Hepburn's American voice, especially when she speaks in French, even though the subject of her speech is an English soldier. Hepburn speaks the language beautifully, like one of us, Jerry says, with as much pride as if he, Gérald Coutu, has trained her himself. Husband and wife suddenly have one thing in common, something they can both talk about. Jerry lets her say the star's name as often as she wants without cutting her off. Katharine Hepburn. Catherine Hepburn, the way he says it with his French accent suddenly appeals to her, along with his fine cheekbones. And once the baby is in bed and asleep, he takes her into the bedroom. Turning off Miss Chiquita Banana. The moon is shining. This takes place 20 years later. My mother has taken a job in Eaton's for a while. 1964, the Bluebird of Happiness flies in for a while. Radios, radios, and record players till they fall out of our ears. My mother loves working in the audio department of Eaton's, loves the discounts, runs amok with budget coupons, runs herself into debt, and so he makes her quit. Every room of our house has a radio and more than one record player. It's odd, but our father likes There's a Kind of Hush all over the world tonight. Only later we find that it is their song, his and his longtime lovers. But he loves opera and Robeson's bass. The Bluebird of Happiness has free reign in our living room, though he's banished my mother's miniature finches to the farthest, darkest corner of the basement. Is that why, like tongue orchids fooling wasps into making love to them, those turntables, those Eaton's radios are so appealing, their shiny dials and knobs at her fingertips, lined up, waiting for her to touch them? Thank you.